Chicago Blackhawks superstar Patrick Kane speaks out about Kirby Dach's recent surge and his lack of development with Chicago. I'll be talking about that, plus Jonathan Drouin is on a very interesting record pace, and Sean Monahan is back traveling with the team. That and more on this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, and a real quick reminder before we get into the video, subscribe right now. I'm just saying it, we're like 25 subscribers away from 4,000. We're so close. We've been saying that for, it feels like weeks. Just hit that button, bring us to 4,000. We know you guys can help us out with that. Topic 1 today. Patrick Kane admits that Kirby Dach was rushed. So this is interesting. If you guys have been keeping up in the Twitter sphere, maybe looking at some other YouTube channels, you might have seen this quote, but I'm going to show it to you guys anyway. It came yesterday before the game against Chicago. And Patrick Kane was asked about Kirby Dach's recent surge, because of course he's been playing phenomenally for Montreal. Quote, "I'm not surprised. What is he, 21, 22? It takes some time sometimes, and he was probably rushed into the league. And playing fourth line minutes, getting sat out games, it's probably not the best thing for your development." Gee, I mean, this kind of stuff coming from Patrick Kane, the franchise superstar, the face of the Chicago Blackhawks for a decade plus now, a guy who's brought you Stanley Cups. It's kind of crazy to hear. Patrick Kane played on a line with Kirby Dach. These guys played together. I'm sure they spoke a lot during Kirby's time in Chicago. I mean, of course, Kirby could never quite get it going, and some people said maybe it's the Blackhawks, maybe it's the fact that Kirby had that horrible wrist injury before the World Juniors just a few years ago. Maybe he couldn't quite get back to his normal self. But the fact that Patrick Kane, like I said, a guy who's played with Kirby, spent time with him, played on the same line, said he's not surprised that Kirby Dach is putting up these type of numbers is very interesting to me. Because, of course, if you guys have been following the Blackhawks, they traded away Dach, they traded away the likes of Brandon Hagel, two young guys that are also only 21, 22 years old, both of them, to go full rebuild mode. Yeah, they got a draft pick that ended up being Frank Nazar for Kirby Dach, and he looks like he could be a very solid player for them in the future. But it's very interesting to me that these guys who are basically as young as players that you might draft this year, maybe a year or two difference, they're saying that maybe they won't fit the timeline. But if Patrick Kane comes out and says, "Listen, I'm not surprised this kid is going off now," and he played with him, he's like, "This was my former line mate." Yeah, not surprised at all. It's kind of a negative thing to hear if you're Chicago management. I mean, I know they're planning on trading Kane, and I'm sure he has no reservations anymore about his time in Chicago, but I thought that was a bit of an interesting tidbit to bring to you guys to show that our boy Kirby, Patrick Kane says he was rushed. Doesn't seem to matter at this point. I think a change of environment, change of scenery was amazing for him. I'm going to play the animation. And he's thriving in Montreal despite Chicago's lack of development. So a very interesting quote. I think you guys might enjoy that. Topic 2 today. Well, this one here, actually. We're going to get into this first. Jonathan Drouin is on record pace, but a very interesting record. And maybe not such a great record. I mean, Jonathan Drouin has been playing out of his mind recently. He has 12 assists in his last 12 games. He's on a .55 points per game pace right now. If he were to play a full season, he'd be on pace for 45, 50 assists. So he has really been thriving recently. Of course, in our game yesterday against Chicago, that line with Drouin, Armia, and Christian Dvorak went off. The three of them each had 2 points. And Jonathan Drouin, if you looked at the advanced stats in the game, he ended up topping Montreal for performance in that game against Chicago. So very interesting. But what's even more interesting to me is this record that he's on pace for. Take a look. So I pulled this from Reddit. Someone searched forward with most assists in a season with no goals in the NHL. Reminder, this is forwards only. Jonathan Drouin, if the season ended today, he would have the season with the most points ever by a forward without a goal. He currently has 17 assists in 31 games played. The other likes of Ville Leno, just a few years ago, Tobias Reeder with Edmonton. But very, very interesting that Drouin himself is at the top of this list right now. Now, I feel like before the season ends, his hands are too good. He's been getting too many chances to end without a goal, but I think this is very cool. The fact that he hasn't scored yet, but it shows that he is starting to produce with 17 assists in 31 games, most of them coming recently. Right, like I said, 12 assists in his last 12 games, which means, 5 assists in his first 19 games, and that's it. So he's been bouncing back. I'm sure he will get a goal, and this record is sort of a little misleading because those other seasons, that's not like... Those are all ended seasons, basically. Those are full seasons worth of data, and we don't have that yet for Drouin. For example, earlier this year, Matt Barzal had 19 assists without a goal, so he would have been at the top here. But, hey, we're getting closer and closer to the end of the season. Just thought it was interesting to show you guys that if it ended today, he would have that record. So let's hope he gets a goal further on in the season. But his performance as of late, I would be shocked if he ended the season without a goal, because he has been straight up one of Montreal's most efficient players, I will say, the last few weeks. So Jonathan Drouin, I'm seeing a lot of people coming back around on him. I saw some pundits, especially French ones on TV, saying, I mean, he might not even have a contract next season. I don't think that's true. He's always been around a 45, 50-point player. I think some team is going to take a flyer on him. Whether or not he accepts the amount of money that a team might give him, that's up for debate. But Jonathan Drouin recently has really been showing he's getting back into game shape, and hopefully that continues as the season moves on. We got another bit of news here. Sean Monahan is traveling with the team. This is hype. I'm so excited to hear about this. Brianna Emmerich tweets that the Habs' Sean Monahan will accompany the team on the road to continue rehabbing his lower body injury. While there's no chance Monahan plays either game in Carolina or Toronto, traveling with the team sounds like a positive step in the right direction. I don't know if there's such thing as a positive step in the wrong direction, but hey, I digress. We're going to get into the Sean Monahan stuff. Of course, Monahan has been missing for so long. There's been so few updates. I've seen so many videos, people saying, why is Montreal staying so quiet on Sean Monahan? Who knows? His lower body injury, this mysterious injury that's been keeping him out for, well over a month now, might be reaching its conclusion. They straight up Brianna said he's not going to play on this road trip, but the fact that he's traveling with the team, maybe it's for, his maturity, his leadership in the locker room, but you gotta think he is inching closer and closer to a return. Of course, we're seeing Cayden, Guhle, and Monahan skated together today at practice, Joel Edmundson after practice as well. So a lot of these injured guys are starting to come back, which is awesome for Montreal. And to sort of transition off of that, Cayden, Guhle, and Joel Edmundson, with them coming back, it raises some questions about Arber Xhekaj, because, I'd say less raises some questions, more raises some answers, if that makes any sense. Because we know that Arber Xhekaj, due to the injury, the upper body injury that he got in the Edmonton game, he'll be out indefinitely. A lot of people believe it's a shoulder injury. So, really, it's extremely unfortunate that Xhekaj is out. And myself and Jesse spoke a bit, actually at length about that in yesterday's live stream. Go check that out if you haven't. These live streams, by the way, thank you guys for the support on those. They've been so fun to do. But with Arber Xhekaj going out for a while now, to see Cayden, Guhle, and Joel Edmundson ramping up their activities is pretty awesome, especially considering that I'm pretty tired of seeing Chris Wideman on the ice. Again, no slander against Chris Wideman, but personally, I just don't think he's quite an NHL-level defenseman anymore. Too many turnovers, too many mistakes. So having Joel Edmundson back could be very interesting. Yes, that would load Montreal with 4 left-handed defensemen and 2 right-handed defensemen. Well, I guess... yeah, 3, I guess, if you have Justin Barron, Jonathan Kovacevic, and David Savard. So, not too bad. To have Edmundson and Guhle, both left-handed defensemen, almost ready to come back, is pretty great. I mean, I know Guhle's still a few weeks out, but Edmundson himself, if he doesn't get traded before the deadline, will fill the role from Xhekaj. But to speak a little bit on Xhekaj, the fact that he's out indefinitely is kind of rough. Because, me and Jesse spoke a bit about it on one of our videos, saying, or we got a question in a live stream saying, what do you guys think about Xhekaj's long-term future with Montreal, especially with the amount of defensive prospects? And both of our answers were kind of it's Xhekaj's spot to lose, right? He has proven himself time and time again that he's an extremely valuable piece to this team. He brings a lot of what Joel Edmundson brings, but there's a lot of speculation that Edmundson will be shipped out in a trade. So to have that physicality, the guy who will drop the mitts for you, the guy who's going to cross-check people in front of the net when eventually he's on this Montreal team for a playoff run, it's invaluable. Yes, Montreal has the likes of Lane Hutson, Logan Mailloux, who had a beautiful overtime winner last night. If you didn't check that out, go do it. Jaden Struble, and even some guys in the AHL, and Justin Barron staying up, Jordan Harris. There's kind of a logjam. And Mike Matheson's probably going to play out his contract. David Savard is still there. But at the same time, I think Montreal, if they can, they're going to make room for Xhekaj. The unfortunate part now is we don't know how long he's out, so he's going to be out of NHL action for a while. Hopefully not for the rest of the season, and we're gonna pray for that, knock on wood. But it's going to be something to monitor, and it's something you guys should start thinking about as well as we approach the draft, as we approach eventually next year's training camp. What's going to be the deal with Xhekaj? But in the meantime, all we can do is monitor his progress, and at least we have the likes of Guhle and Edmundson probably likely to return within the next few weeks. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Help us hit 4,000 subs. We appreciate all your guys' support, and we hope it continues long into the future. I'm Josh Gosse. We'll catch you in the next one.